Hi there, welcome to week 22 of science. Over the past several weeks, we have spent a lot of time talking about our resources, and in particular, our natural resources. Anytime we're talking about nature, these are things that are coming from our earth. We've talked about two different types of resources. We've talked about renewable resources and non renewable resources. Renewable resources are things that we could possibly run out of, but over time can be um, replenished, meaning that they could regrow or they could be revitalized, meaning that it can happen again. So these would be things, for example, like trees. We use trees for heat. We also use them to make paper and many other things. So we have wood to build with. Also, things like food, for example, animals. Even though we may eat a lot of food and we may use animals to get a lot of our food, animals can be born, and that's how we could replace them. So we've learned over the past few weeks that renewable resources are really the way to go. If we're dealing with non renewable resources, again, resources come from the earth. Unfortunately, non renewable resources come from under the earth. They come from the ground, which means we have to dig them up or we have to mine them. So these would be things like oil, natural gas, and coal. Unfortunately, non renewable resources, things that come from underneath the ground, cannot be replaced. They cannot be replenished. So once they're used, they're done. That is why we spent a lot of time a few weeks back talking about the three R's: reducing, reusing, and recycling. Because if we can reduce and reuse our non renewable resources and recycle those non renewable resources, they will stay around for much longer. We also talked about, when we talked about the three R's, really focusing on using the renewable resources and reusing and reducing how we do use those. So again, those don't even have to be recreated as much. So when we talked about those renewable, non-renewable resources, that really led us to conservation, those three R's. Now, last week we took renewable, non renewable, and we applied it to something else that we use a lot of. We talked about energy. So, with energy, we know that without energy, we can't do anything. For example, when you take a bite of pizza or you take a bite of your apple, that is food. Right? And you're not just giving your body food because you're hungry, you're giving your body food because your body requires energy to do all the things you want to do, to speak, to think, to move. You have to provide it with energy. And food gives us energy. It has things inside of it that provide our body with the energy it needs to be able to do the things that we have to do. Um, think of your home, for example. So you can see mine is right here behind me. If I did not use energy, I would not have lights. So you can see it right there. I would not have heat. Um, I would not have hot water to wash my dishes or take a shower or to wash clothes. I need to use energy to make my house work for me. However, if I continue to use the type of energy that we're used to getting, which is energy from our power plants, and I have one not too far down the road from me. So those power plants dig up coal, they take the coal to the power plant, they burn the coal, which makes energy, and they send it through the power lines to my house, and that turns on the lights, and that gives me hot water, and that gives me heat. But the problem with that is over time, if I don't think of another way to get my energy, we're going to use up all that coal. Then I won't have any energy to turn on lights, to have hot water, to have heat. So this week, what we're going to do is we're going to focus specifically on renewable energy. We talked about both the renewable, non-renewable energy last week, and we realized that renewable energy is the way to go. It's going to ensure and make certain that we have the energy we need for many years to come. This week, we're going to do that in the form of a project. So on the next slide, you'll have just a basic review video on the renewable and non-renewable energy. And then you'll have two additional slides, which are our web content slides. Those two websites have tons of projects. You are going to pick one of those, you are going to recreate it. Now, I don't care what it looks like. I'm not grading you on your art skills. That's Mr. Barrett's job. I just want you to be able to create it or try to recreate this project and be able to explain to us what you did. And we're going to do that on Friday when we meet at 8 a.m. for our Zoom. You will present your project and explain what renewable energy you used to make that project. I look forward to seeing your project.